Hey everyone, welcome to Catalyst Energies. My name is Dee. Thank you for joining me. I'm so grateful that you made it to this new moon report. The new moon is going to be on the 15th of November at midnight East Coast Standard Time. So that means it'll be at 9 p.m. West Pacific Standard Time on the 14th, and is at 24 degrees Scorpio. And right now, as I'm recording this is the 13th. We're going to go back and look at the chart for the 14th and the 15th for over the weekend, kind of take a little bit of a closer look at the first quarter of this cycle. And but I'm going to start backwards because we have eclipses that are part of this lunar cycle. We have the sun trine Chiron, a Sagittarius sun trine Chiron on Thanksgiving Day. All of these Scorpio energies, Venus is going to move into Scorpio during this time, is going to trine Neptune. Mercury in Scorpio is going to trine Neptune, and Neptune is going to then go direct right as we are about to hit the lunar eclipse, which is actually in Sagittarius and Gemini, but is in a very wide square to Neptune, now direct. And so, you can really feel the swelling of the ocean, of consciousness, of this collective experience, this collective feeling experience with Neptune and Pisces. And once it goes direct, all of that time that we've been surrendering to the situation and allowing ourselves to stay submerged in this zone is now the swell of the ocean is going to start moving forward when Neptune goes direct. And so the lunar eclipse being in square to that is, it's its own thing. So I want to start with the solar eclipse first. That's on the 14th of December. Technically, it starts the next lunar cycle. We are looking at 24 degrees Sagittarius, where the moon and the sun meet. That is also within 3 degrees of the galactic center, right? We're looking at the south node of our moon, right? Our karmic history as well. The path of totality of this eclipse is through Chile and Argentina. And it took about 5 minutes of research to look at what their life is like and their relationship. And lo and behold, after the Europeans finally left and gave up their power and control over that area, they ended up having a lot of border disputes, and they had to sign a treaty in the late 19th century to determine where their borders are. And the path of totality, it's not to say that there won't be things that erupt in those geographical places that will ripple out over time. If you remember, the last solar eclipse went right through Wuhan, Hong Kong, went right through Taiwan, that whole area. And that has been very much connected to the United States specifically because it was in Cancer. That was where that eclipse is. So Sagittarius, what could go wrong, right? It is all hope and optimism. It's ruled by Jupiter, which will be in just the last degrees of Capricorn at this time because it's about to come into Aquarius. Manifestation, Jupiter is, really dealing with the manifestation power at full capacity by the time we get to the solar eclipse. But what is an eclipse but the moon in the way of the sun? The moon comes in between the sun and the earth and blocks out the light of the sun completely for that amount of time. So it's never a good omen. And I suspect that no matter what comes about, as in the United States specifically, because the world is watching. It's not the center of the universe, but right now everybody's watching the reality show that is the 2020 election. So what happens with that and the official certification of those votes at that time, we should be familiarizing ourselves with what happened with Chile and Argentina in terms of their border disputes, because there is a rift that is going to take a really long time to heal in this country. And we have to be working on it now, but it will become, and it will ripple through months after that event, and if not longer at this point, with how much all of this actually really means. So that's the end of this lunar cycle, moving into the next new moon, which is a solar eclipse. And as optimistic we want to feel, as much as we want to express our hope and optimism and good fortune in that moment, despite what happens, it's not going to be what we think, and the shadow of it is going to last for months. And I'm going to look more into this aspect with Chile and Argentina and what that actually entailed as they figured out, because once the controllers left, they had to figure out where they all stood. And that feels very strong to me, that is something that we are collectively going to deal with, not only in this country, but it will reverberate out into other parts of the geopolitical sphere. So that's the solar eclipse. The lunar eclipse, Sagittarius and Gemini. Wow. And this is, like I said, in square to a direct Neptune. 9 degrees of Gemini is a quiver filled with arrows. Does that sound familiar? I remember a certain politician using that phrase in relation to how they are going to handle the current president amidst all of the other challenges that we should have been coming together to deal with. But what they were focused on is conquest and hitting their target. That's really what 9 degrees of Gemini, the quiver full of arrows. You have the capacity at any given time to hit the bullseye very directly and skillfully with the mind, right? This is where the moon will be. So what is a lunar eclipse? Well, the earth gets in the way. It casts a shadow onto what otherwise is a fully illuminated moon. So again, things are not as they seem, and we're not going to get a full picture of, how we feel when it comes to our mental and intellectual capacity. And we can focus on that particular symbol from the vantage point of conquesting, conquest of our own ego, right? The bullseye, it's a very Zen type of thing, is that we are able to hone in and hit the bullseye in so precise and skillful way in terms of the dialectic, right? The back and forth in our minds. That's the thing about Gemini, which is why Gemini people and strong Gemini people tend not to trust them very much, at least until you get to know them, because there is always room for new ideas, and it's a constant back and forth. And nothing is really settled upon. And it's the trickster, right? Because it is just all possibilities exist to be interacted with. And that is the realm of the magician. Okay. But Jupiter, right, Sagittarius, and Mercury going right into Sag right after this lunar eclipse, there is a responsibility to the collective and the culture to somehow educate and support the new members of that culture in understanding the ideals and the values. And it's not a natural progression. We're talking about what the culture has built as a result of cohesion and alchemy, right? Sagittarius. It is the responsibility of that to then implement some sort of curriculum in order to teach others as well. And this is where I think we're gonna want to express ourselves, and we're gonna get in our own way when it comes to seeing our ability to really hone in on something. And with Neptune moving direct right before this in a square, just be prepared at that point for the ground, the swell of the ocean is all Akashic information, including propaganda, right? And so be prepared for an onslaught of that as well. But either way, the ocean will start swelling, and the movement towards the shore is coming with Neptune going direct. I think that the 30th of November and this lunar eclipse is going to give us, I think, how do I say this? A false sense of optimism and what our responsibility really is, right? And what we aren't seeing clearly is what is it in our subconscious that needs to be let go of in order for us to have that skillful marksmanship with our own mind and ego, where eclipses, they are not easy. So being prepared for this as we go forward is important. There's so many other things that we will be addressing as the weeks go on, but these are the general themes. Thanksgiving Day, Sun trine, I'm looking at my notes. Sun trine Chiron, Sun in Sagittarius. This is my natal sun, is 6 degrees Sagittarius. Okay, this is group solidarity. This is playing a game of cricket or baseball, right? It is the abstraction, these abstract ideas of collective responsibility and solidarity are put into some sort of game or ritual, and like playing a game like baseball or cricket or whatever, that requires complete group cohesion in order to play the game. Trine Chiron in Aries, the wound, right? The wounded healer. Are we a victim? Are we savior? And we are really, with Chiron, it's all about us. Each individual is like, this is my wound. This is how I've been victimized. This is how I'm going to save people. And there's some action, Aries is cardinal action. Mars is territory. We want to do something about it, assert ourselves, actualize ourselves, specifically actualize on those wounds. So when the sun is trine here, it's getting a lot of traction. So Thanksgiving Day, this could really aggravate this, right? Just because it's a trine doesn't mean it's good. It just means it's completely balanced and secure. A trine is a 120-degree angle, and we're looking at the triangle, each equal angle in the triangle making up the 360 degrees. It's very structurally sound. So group solidarity, what it means to come together. This whole time with Sun in Sagittarius is going to be really interesting because this is the south node of our moon. And so this whole wanting to express ourselves through the collective value and the beliefs and the trust and the hope and the truth, all of that stuff, it's just going to be, and trying to Chiron like this, it depends on whose team we're playing on. Let's just be real. If we're playing on one team, how we identify group solidarity and letting go of ourselves for the sake of the group, I think we can really heal from this, especially Thanksgiving. This is when people and families are coming together, and there's so many rifts right now on so many levels that there could be a real healing here if it really depends on what team you're playing on. That's what is so amazing about reading astrology, is that it doesn't tell you what's going to happen. I mean, it just gives you the potential where you're going to align with, just on a spectrum, right? A negative and a positive end, and anywhere in between of where we align with it. So it depends on what team we're playing on and how we identify what group solidarity means. And that can either lead to some healing or just completely reinforcing the Chiron wound, and really digging our heels in about that. How we're a victim, how other people are victims, and we're here to save them. Thanksgiving is always a really, for as wonderful as it is, it's always a lot of stress on other people where your family dynamic isn't exactly something you want to interact with. And I think that that's either way, it's going to be amplified considerably. But I think that the potential for healing right now is strong. Now, keep in mind that the moon is going to be in Aries as well. So this just makes it even harder. So just keep that in mind as we go through. I'm sure more messages will come through about Thanksgiving as we get closer. So let's look at the chart for the 14th and the 15th, the new moon and the dark moon leading right up to it. Let's share the screen here. And there we go. All right, so let me move my face over here. All right, so this is the 14th, right at 1 a.m. on the East Coast. So even just tonight, we're recording this on the 13th. All right, so here is the sun is in a sextile to Pluto in late Scorpio, late Capricorn. Jupiter is still pretty much right here. This was the big chess move that happened. Pallas Athena is still here too. These are big moves, big strategic moves, leadership moves. And Pluto's here to be like, and I'm here to just add the extra blow. This feels like a real Bhagavad Gita moment, right? Where the two factions are squaring off, and it's like, you just have to make your chess move. Like, we're in it now, right? And that is what happened. Whether or not it fully has manifested in our own personal lives or out in our attention has yet to be seen. But I think definitely things have happened energetically, that is for sure. So the sun, like I said, this is the time right now where we are deciding what we're going to transubstantiate that we haven't gotten rid of. The moon is in the same place. This is, like I said, this is on the 14th or late tonight on the 13th, depending on where you are. The moon, look at this, in the same position as the full moon, the sun. So now the moon is in opposition to Uranus. And remember when I talked, I don't know if you hadn't seen it, I'll link to it if you want. You can check it out because we are finishing up this last lunar cycle. But do you remember with the full moon, we're talking about how as a dentist at work? Well, at the time we were expressing ourselves, acting on it, but now it's time that we're going to feel it and feel our teeth being drilled. And if we were ready for that, maybe we didn't even have to, you know what I mean? Maybe we didn't even have to come into this situation where we need to have our teeth drilled. But if we kept eating all the junk food and not taking care of ourselves and indulging ourselves, Scorpio, you can really indulge yourself to the point where you just kind of drown in it all if you're not mindful of this. So now it comes around to actually feel if in fact we are getting our teeth drilled, because that's how you fix, if you have cavities, that is the way that we monitor, dentistry works. So right away, we're going to start feeling it. And then the sun, though, in late Scorpio is saying, well, we might be feeling one way, but what we do, how we act, the sun, how we express ourselves in late Scorpio is now the real challenge of the transubstantiation. We can drown, right? We can go into our animal instinct, Black Moon Lilith, which is also and what is going to be in opposition to the Scorpio moon in just a couple hours from here. You'll see. Do we fall into that, or do we rise above it? Do we have a peak experience of real deep knowing that comes from late Scorpio? And the whole next cycle, the whole lunar cycle, is about integrating that and taking that peak experience or that transformation, that rising, the Phoenix rising moment. Are we going to transform from that and actually have it affect the rest of how we operate, or is it going to just fall away back into our old patterns? Well, thankfully, the sun is in a sextile to Pluto, which is for sure just being like, no, it's over. Like, I have already destroyed everything. Like, it's over. I'm handing out the medals. It's over. Checkmate, right? So the sun is, if we act on it, right? If we take that as a cue for transformation, then we will be able to move past and actually transform and have it stick through the next cycle. So 6 hours from now, we have then the moon then in an opposition again to Black Moon Lilith. This is the part of ourselves we don't even know exists, animal instinct. This is the part of us that acts from the reptilian part of our brain, our limbic system. This is outside of the realm of intuition even. This is so much deeper than that. And Lilith, is the dark feminine. And this is not to put a characterization of good or bad, but this is just how we respond or react when in the face of wanting to survive. It is not even about emotion at that point. It's even deeper than that. And so the moon in Scorpio is then going to be in opposition to that too, which I think is really helpful, because now we start to experiment. We start to consider other ways of dealing with our problems. And in this case, a moon in Scorpio, all about how we feel. There's a depth and intensity of how we feel. This is going to be actually really good, because Lilith is just like got all this, there's a lot of baggage that she's got to deal with as she's moving through Taurus. And so it's really, the weight of it is a little bit too much. And so tapping into our deep intuition right now is going to allow us to not get pulled totally into the survival mechanism, because there is a lot of baggage. And just track Lilith if you want to see what the bad actors are doing, because this is the part of them that is always being triggered, because it's about survival, right? And instinct and the animal part of us, you know. So yeah, so that's you know, we're still talking about the 14th. That's first thing in the morning. So the other things that are really important to keep in mind, Venus now is in late Libra, and she's going to start squaring Pluto. She's going to square Jupiter, and she's going to square Saturn, all as part of this aspect, but it's specifically squaring Pluto on the 15th, and you'll see as we move forward. Now, right now, as of today, the 13th, the moon in Libra was squaring all these positions. Now, the moon in Libra, it is not, you know, it's sometimes it's wishy-washy because the moon is emotions, but Libra is the mind, and it's using our mind, not necessarily our emotions, and our understanding of the law and justice in order to find balance. And so the moon here is not really at her best, just because it's, like I said, Libra, people, moon and Libra, like that, well, we feel this drive to have things balanced, but you can so easily be moved from one position to the other because it's the moon, and how you feel is very transitory. Well, Venus rules Libra. So even if on the 13th, when that moon squared to Jupiter and Saturn and Pallas Athena and Pluto, even if that was just kind of like a little shaky, we weren't really sure, when Venus is squaring it, this is her home territory. She rules Libra. She knows exactly what it feels like. And so she will definitely hold her ground when she is in a square to Pluto and to Jupiter and to Pallas Athena. And we will feel it in our bodies. We will know what it feels like to be stabilized, to have a higher spiritual perspective, to transcend all of the struggle. It will be something that is very real to us. And we need that. We need that to hold ourselves accountable in the face of these very large processes unfolding and transformation happening. I think there's an expectation that it's all going to happen in this flashpoint, and it does, but because of these very large cycles that are at play, it can kind of extend out over days. So Venus, though, through the week is going to be squaring all of these aspects and will really give us a sense. Like I said, we will feel it. And it's so gracious, right? Libra is so gracious, or Venus is so gracious. She is the scales of justice. She has no judgment. She feels what it is, and she reports on it. And you can't really question her in this situation. Now, when she moves into Scorpio, it's different. She's gone from total, just total power. She's in her exaltation. She's at home in Libra, to the opposite, right? She's not happy in Scorpio. This is going to be difficult. This is going to be an interesting month because of that. So as we move into, so we're still here in the 14th, right? And here we go. Here's the first square. The moon is getting closer and closer to the sun. So as we move into the 15th, here we are right here. Right as it happens, the moon comes to meet the sun at 24 degrees Scorpio. And right before that happens, the sun is also in a sextile to Jupiter as well. And Jupiter is making the commitment, right? Is committing to something that is transcendent than just manifesting, which is a big deal for Jupiter. Okay, it's kind of just like, okay, all right, I'm here to commit to this process now. And the sun, in the degree that the new moon is happening, again, is they're supporting each other. And this, you have to be able to commit to it totally in order for the transformation to even happen. And then once you have that moment, that Phoenix rising moment, then it's about implementing it into your daily life. You know, the people listening to this inspired Sermon on the Mount, for instance, this is the Sabian symbol, are, you know, the symbol is not about the sermon. It's about the people going home afterwards. It's about how do you integrate this really peak experience into your life rather than drowning in everything that you've learned in the abyss, which is Scorpio. So Jupiter is then making a commitment here and will also support the sun and our ability to implement this transformation moving forward. There's a lot of support here for what's happening right now. And Venus, again, is something to look towards because she represents how things feel to us, and what is beautiful and balanced and harmonious in our lives. You know, our relationships, our projects, our material assets, our financial transactions. That's all how we feel about these things, and not emotionally, like in a kinesthetic way in our senses. So there'll be a lot more strength here in the face of what is happening. And then the new moon, like I said, is that time to really initiate something, the intention around being able to apply this throughout the month. Plenty of challenges along the way, my friends, plenty. And I don't want to get too much into all. There's just so much density here with this whole lunar cycle that I can't get into every single transit without making it really just too long, right? Just know that right now, this whole the whole month is really going to be about, like I said, the implementing of what we've learned. And as the sun moves into Sagittarius, Mercury is going to move into Sagittarius. We have the eclipses, Venus into Scorpio. It's not going to feel very good. But in our minds and what we do, we're going to really be expressing this hope and optimism and truth. Sagittarius is the understanding of our collective values and what we can create from there. And I think that there is a lot of hope. But again, we have to let go of things before something new can come about. And I think that's what we're going to really bump up against during this lunar cycle, especially with the eclipse. We're going to really bump up against what it is that needs to die. And I think right now, for sure, right now in this moment, we are facing some representation of that. So that is the new moon report for Catalyst Energies. Thank you so much for joining me. If you find this information helpful or enlightening at all, please consider subscribing, liking the video. It helps the algorithm in terms of getting it out there to people who most likely will also feel benefit from it. Everything you need is in the description box below in terms of social media, email, and how to access the website. That's where you can book services from and just get a deeper sense of Catalyst Energies and what we're all about. And yeah, I'll see you guys on the next report. Take care of yourself. Happy new moon. It's all about the transformation, baby. Phoenix rising.